Okay, so for this deep dive you sent us, Are You AI Ready? It's a pretty thought-provoking title, don't you
It
think?
is.
Almost like the future's giving us a little nudge and saying, hey, are you
It
keeping up?
certainly is.
What do you think is interesting about this excerpt?
Well, what I find particularly interesting about this excerpt is its focus,
Okay.
not on the nitty-gritty tech stuff,
Right.
but on the strategic thinking executives need to embrace to really harness AI's potential.
Yeah, it feels like it's for people at a
Yeah.
point where they know AI is a big deal,
Mm,
but maybe feeling a bit lost in the AI
right.
jungle. This excerpt is like a
I
compass,
like that.
and we're here to help
A
you read it.
compass, because it's not just about knowing the technology exists. It's
Right.
about navigating the landscape and figuring out where AI fits into your specific world. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're looking at an excerpt from a book all about giving executives practical advice on AI. No algorithms here.
Yeah.
Just the how do I actually use this strategically kind
And
of
that's
stuff.
key because so often AI gets presented as this magic wand that'll solve all your problems. But
Uh-huh.
without a strategic framework, it's easy to get swept up in the hype and end
Yeah,
up with a shiny new AI tool that doesn't actually solve anything. Yeah.
totally. And the excerpt starts by acknowledging that everyone's coming to this with a different level of
Right.
knowledge. Some folks might be AI
Yeah.
ninjas, while others are just starting to dip their
Right.
toes in.
And that's where a shared understanding is so important.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick level set for everyone.
Good.
This excerpt uses AI as this big umbrella term covering things like machine learning, neural networks, all those buzzwords you've probably heard.
Right.
But at its core, it's all about making predictions based on data.
So AI is
Yeah.
like the superpowered prediction
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
It gobbles up tons of data,
Mm-hmm.
figures out patterns, and then tries to tell you what's going to happen next. Kind of like having a crystal
Yeah.
ball. But instead of magic, it's math and
That's a great
algorithms.
way to put it.
Okay, so AI isn't brand new.
No,
The core ideas have been around for
for a
decades.
long time.
But the real aha moment that sparked today's AI craze was the development of transformers back in 2018.
Yes.
What was that all about?
So think of it like this.
Okay.
Before
Okay.
Transformers, AI was like a student learning one language at a time.
Okay.
Transformers let AI learn from tons of different data all at once, making it way smarter and more powerful. And that's
Wow.
what's behind a lot of the generative AI we see today, like ChatGPT.
Okay, so you mentioned predictions before, but now we're talking about generation.
Right.
What's the difference?
Oh,
It sounds like we've moved from fortune telling to creating something entirely
that's a
new.
sharp observation, and it gets to the heart of the different ways AI can be used. Predictive AI is like a detective looking at clues from the past to solve a mystery. In this case, predicting what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
It's what powers things like self-driving cars, anticipating the best course of action based on data from sensors and cameras.
Okay.
Generative AI, on the other hand, is like an artist.
Hmm.
It creates new content, text, images, music, based on all the data it's been trained on. That's how ChatGPT can write poems,
Yeah.
or how AI image generators can conjure up photorealistic pictures of cats wearing hats.
So predictive AI is all about analyzing what I ask,
Right.
while generative AI is about creating what could be.
Exactly.
That opens up a whole universe of possibilities,
It
doesn't
certainly does. And both
Yeah.
have huge implications for businesses, depending on their strategic goals.
Speaking of strategic goals, the excerpt dives into something called the AI maturity curve. Where do you think our listener might fall in this curve?
Given their interest in this material,
Yeah.
I'd say they're likely in the early stages of exploring and trying to figure out how to strategically implement AI.
Okay, so let's break down these first two levels. What does it mean to be at level 1 on the AI maturity curve?
Level 1 is all about exploration and awareness. You might
Okay.
be playing around with tools like ChatGPT for specific tasks,
Oh.
or just starting to grasp the vast potential of AI. It's like you're peeking through the window and seeing the amazing things AI could do for your business.
So you're intrigued but not quite ready to commit.
Exactly.
Kind of like window shopping for AI.
Exactly.
Okay, and then at level 2, things start to get more strategic.
Yeah.
You're laying the groundwork, maybe experimenting with AI in a more structured
Right.
way, but you're also hitting some speed bumps along
Right.
the way. This is where the rubber meets the road. Right?
Absolutely.
The excerpt talks about pain points at these levels. And I think
Are
this
you
is where
worried
our
about
listener
falling
might
behind
really
your
resonate.
competitors? unsure where to even begin with AI,
Right.
struggling to get your team on board.
Yeah.
Those are all common challenges at these early stages.
And I imagine those challenges can feel pretty overwhelming, especially
Right.
when you see all the hype around AI.
That's why having a clear roadmap is so important.
Yeah.
And that's what this excerpt aims to provide, a
Yep.
practical guide for navigating those early stages and building a solid foundation for AI success.
Now, the excerpt shifts gears a bit to talk
Mhm.
about leadership in the age of uncertainty.
Mm,
And it starts with a quote from Walt Disney, of all people.
okay.
It says, "Times and conditions change so rapidly that we must keep our aim constantly focused on the future."
I love that quote.
Yeah.
It's so relevant to the AI conversation.
How so?
Think about it. No one knows exactly how this technology will play out,
Right.
which can feel both exciting and a little scary.
Yeah, it's like we're all sailing into uncharted waters with AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why adaptable leadership is more crucial now than ever before. You need leaders who can embrace change, experiment fearlessly, and guide their teams through this period of rapid transformation.
So let me ask you this.
Sure.
What does adaptable leadership look like to you in this AI-driven world?
It boils down to being open to new ideas, questioning old assumptions, and recognizing that the way we work is going to fundamentally change.
Okay.
It's also about building a culture of trust and transparency where people feel empowered to experiment and learn.
It sounds like it's not just about adapting to AI, but adapting the way we lead as well.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that leads perfectly into the next section of the excerpt,
Okay.
which focuses on strategy beyond the hype. It outlines 3 strategic pillars for leveraging AI. And this is where things start to get really practical.
Okay. 3 pillars. Let's build this thing.
Right.
What's the first one?
The first pillar is all about recognizing that AI isn't about replacing everything humans do.
Okay.
It's about understanding what makes your business uniquely human. Those elements where AI just can't compete.
Okay.
The excerpt uses this fantastic example of Aston Martin hand painting their cars.
Oh, wow.
It takes 50 hours per car, even though they could automate it.
Right.
But that human touch, that artistry,
Yeah.
is a core part of their brand, their story. It's what makes them Aston Martin.
So it's like saying, hey, AI, you could do a lot of things,
Yeah,
but some things are sacred.
exactly.
It's about knowing your strengths and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater just because AI can do some things faster or cheaper.
Right.
Okay, what's the second pillar?
Now, the second pillar flips that on its head.
Okay.
This one's about leveraging AI to boost efficiency and enhance human skills.
Okay.
Not replacing people, but making them even better at what they do.
So like what? What would be an example?
Think of AI-assisted developer tools.
Okay.
They can help write code faster, spot bugs more efficiently,
Yeah.
freeing up developers to focus on the really creative and complex problem solving.
So instead of AI taking over jobs,
Right.
it's actually giving people superpowers.
Yeah.
I like
They're a
that.
much more collaborative approach.
Okay, cool.
And then the third pillar is about what the excerpt calls smart automation.
Okay.
This one's all about finding the right balance between automation and that essential human touch.
Give me an example.
You know, like think about customer service.
Okay.
AI can handle tons of routine questions,
Right.
freeing up human agents for the more complex or sensitive issues.
So it's about being strategic about where AI makes the most sense,
Yes.
not just blindly automating every single task.
Absolutely. It's about knowing when to automate, when to delegate, and when to bring in that irreplaceable human element.
Right.
AI is just one tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
And it's about using the right tool for the job.
The excerpt is really emphasizing this idea that it's not an all or nothing situation with AI.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot between human expertise and AI augmentation.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do you measure whether AI is actually adding value?
Right. It's not just about buzzwords and shiny new tech. It's about tangible results that impact your bottom line and your overall goals.
So how do you know if AI is really moving the needle for your business?
Okay.
What should our listener be looking for?
The excerpt breaks down the value dimensions into 4 key areas.
Okay.
Time and cost savings, quality improvements, salability, and even data as an asset. Time and cost savings are often the most obvious and easiest to measure.
Right.
Can AI automate tasks that are currently done manually? Can it speed up processes, reduce errors, free up your team to focus on higher value work?
That makes sense. Time is money after all.
Right.
But what about quality? Can
Right.
AI actually make things better just faster?
Absolutely. AI can analyze mountains of data, to
Ah,
identify patterns and insights that humans might miss,
okay.
leading to
Okay.
improvements in everything from product quality to customer service to decision making. Think of it as having an army of virtual analysts working around the clock to help you make smarter decisions.
So AI is like a quality control expert on
Hmm,
steroids. It's not just catching errors, it's actually helping you prevent them in the
that's a
first
great way to
place.
put it.
What's
Then there's
next?
scalability.
Okay.
As your business grows,
Yeah.
can your existing processes keep up?
Mm,
AI can help you automate and streamline operations so you can
okay.
handle increased demand without breaking a sweat.
That's huge, especially for companies looking to grow quickly without adding a ton of overhead.
Exactly. And finally, there's this fascinating idea of data as an asset.
Okay.
It's a bit more conceptual, but incredibly important in the AI age. The
Okay.
excerpt points out that companies like Meta, Netflix, Uber, they're all built on data.
Hmm.
It's their most valuable asset.
So data isn't just something you collect and store,
Right.
it's something you can actually leverage to create real value.
Precisely.
That's pretty
But here's a
amazing.
critical point that the excerpt makes.
What was
Just
that?
because you can automate something doesn't mean you should. It's about being strategic, focusing on the areas where AI can truly make a difference.
Okay, so it's tempting to jump on the AI bandwagon and try to automate everything in
Yeah.
sight, but that's not always the best
Right.
approach. Sometimes the human touch is still what's
I agree.
needed.
Now, speaking of data,
Okay.
the excerpt highlights that data is both the key to AI success and a potential source of major headaches.
It sounds like data is a bit of a double-edged
It is.
sword.
You need good data for AI to function effectively.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Right.
But
Okay.
getting your data in order can be a massive undertaking,
Yeah.
and that's where a lot of companies stumble.
So what are some of the key data considerations our listeners should be thinking
Well, the
about?
excerpt covers a lot of ground here, talking about security, cleanliness, completeness, accuracy, consistency, and more. It's a lot
Okay.
to unpack, but
Yeah.
let's hit the highlights.
Yeah, let's break it
First and
down.
foremost,
Okay.
security is paramount. You're often dealing with sensitive information,
Yeah.
so you need to work with your security teams from day one to make sure your data is protected at every stage.
Yeah, data breaches are definitely not the kind of headlines you want to be
Absolutely
making.
not.
Okay, what else?
Then there's data cleanliness, making sure your data is accurate and free of errors. It's like
Okay.
spring cleaning, but for your data,
Yeah.
you need to scrub it clean and get rid of any inconsistencies or duplicate.
So no dust bunnies in our data.
Exactly. Then
What
there's
else?
data completeness.
Hmm.
Are you capturing all the information you need?
Okay.
Are there
Oh,
gaps in your data that could skew your results? And is
right.
it in a format that your AI systems can actually understand?
So it's not just about having a lot of data, it's about having the right data.
Exactly.
Data that's clean, complete, accurate, and
That's
consistent.
right. And that can be a huge challenge, especially for companies with legacy systems or data silos.
Yeah, it sounds like getting your data in shape can be a monumental
It
task.
can be, but that's why the excerpt emphasizes the importance of starting small. It's much
Okay.
easier to get a handle on your data when you're dealing with a smaller, more focused data set.
That start small mindset seems to be a recurring theme here.
It is.
First, with choosing AI projects now with data
It's a
management.
powerful concept. The
Yeah.
excerpt argues that big, ambitious AI projects often fail because they get bogged down in complexity. It's much better to start with a well-defined problem, a
Okay.
manageable scope, and a clear set of success metrics.
So what does small really mean in this context?
Right.
What does a bite-sized AI project look
The
like?
excerpt suggests focusing on a problem that's clearly defined,
All right.
limited to a specific team or department,
Hmm.
and has measurable results.
Okay.
You want to be able to see tangible benefits from your AI initiative, even if
Uh-huh.
it's on a small scale.
So it's about proving the concept, building momentum, and learning as you go.
Exactly.
Then you can use those early wins to scale up your AI
That's
efforts.
exactly the idea. Don't try to boil the ocean with your first AI project. Start with a
Okay.
small pot of water and see if you can bring it to a boil.
Now, one thing that really jumped out at me in the excerpt is the emphasis on collaboration.
Yeah,
It takes a village to raise an AI, it
that's a great
seems.
observation. AI is
Yeah,
definitely not a solo sport.
right.
You need a diverse team with a range of skills and perspectives to make it work. The
Okay.
excerpt actually lists several key roles, starting with business stakeholders.
Okay, so let's talk about who needs a seat at the table when it comes to
Okay.
AI. Why are business stakeholders crucial?
Because AI projects should be driven by business needs, not just technical possibilities.
Okay.
You need people who understand the problem you're trying to solve,
Right.
who
Right.
can provide insights into the data,
Hmm.
and who can help you measure the real-world impact of your AI initiative.
It's about aligning AI with your strategic
Mhm.
goals, right?
Exactly.
Not just implementing technology for technology's sake.
Right. And then, of course, you need your IT security folks. As
Uh,
we talked about before, security is absolutely critical when you're dealing with sensitive data. You need
yeah.
experts who can make sure your AI systems are secure and compliant with all the relevant regulations.
Right. So IT security isn't just about keeping the bad guys out.
Hmm.
It's about building trust and protecting your reputation.
Absolutely. And then there are the more technical roles,
Yeah.
project managers, architects, engineers, operations teams.
Yeah.
Each of these roles plays a critical part in bringing an AI project to life.
Let's do a quick run through of why each of those roles is so
Okay,
important.
so project managers are your organizational gurus, keeping everything on track and making sure deadlines are met.
Okay.
Architects are the master planners, ensuring that your AI systems integrate seamlessly with your existing infrastructure.
Got it.
Engineers are the builders, the ones who actually write the code and create the models.
Right.
And operations teams are the ones who keep the lights on, making sure everything runs smoothly once the system is up and running.
So it's like an orchestra with each section playing its part to create a harmonious
I
whole.
love that analogy.
Yeah.
And the conductor in this case is the business leader who's setting the overall vision and strategy for AI.
So the big takeaway here is that AI projects are business
Yes.
projects that happen to use AI, not the other way around.
You got it. And that brings us to another crucial topic that the excerpt addresses:
Okay, what's that?
responsible AI.
Responsible AI. It's a phrase we hear a lot these
We
days.
do.
It feels like there's a growing awareness that AI isn't just this neutral tool.
Right.
It can have real-world consequences that we need to be thinking about carefully.
It's definitely something that's top of mind for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And for good reason, AI systems are being used to make decisions that have a huge impact on our lives,
Uh-huh.
from loan approvals to healthcare to even criminal justice. So it's absolutely crucial that we're building and using these systems in a way that's ethical and responsible.
Yeah, the excerpt doesn't shy away from this
No, it
conversation.
doesn't.
It acknowledges that there are real risks with AI,
Right.
and it uses some very concrete examples to make those risks feel more tangible.
It does.
One example that really stood out to me was the discussion of demographic bias. Let's say you're a bank and you're using AI to help assess loan applications.
Okay.
If the historical data you use to train your AI model is biased against certain
Yeah.
groups, for example, if it reflects past discriminatory lending practices, then your AI system might end up perpetuating that bias,
Exactly.
even if you don't intend for it
Right.
to.
It's just reflecting the biases that already exist in the data. It's like holding up a mirror to society's flaws.
And that's why it's so important to be really critical of the data you're using to train AI models.
Yes.
You need to make sure it's representative and that it doesn't contain hidden biases that could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes.
Exactly.
The excerpt also talks about the issue of misleading correlation.
Does.
It gives this example of a company using AI to predict when machine parts would fail
Okay.
so they could stock up on spares.
Hmm.
The AI seemed really accurate based on the historical
Yeah.
data, but it failed to account for a change in the operating
Right.
environment. As a result, the company ended up with a warehouse full of spare parts they didn't need.
That's a great illustration of how AI can sometimes lead you astray if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Just because a model looks good on paper doesn't mean it will always perform well in the real world.
Right.
You need to be constantly monitoring and evaluating your AI systems,
Okay.
making sure they're adapting to changing conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and not just blindly following patterns from the past.
It's like the AI needs a reality check every now and then.
Exactly. And the excerpt touches on other risks as well.
Like
Things
what?
like malicious attacks on AI systems, the challenges of testing AI models,
Right.
the importance of having strong data governance policies in place.
Hmm.
It's a lot to think about. The key takeaway is that responsible AI isn't just a technical issue. It's a
Yeah.
human issue.
Hmm.
We need to be having these conversations and thinking about the ethical implications of the AI systems we're building.
It feels like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
Yeah.
And there's one final point in the excerpt that I want to highlight.
Okay.
It says, you've got to go live for all of this to matter. It's not enough to just talk about AI.
No.
We have to actually put it into
That's
practice.
so true. It's one thing to build an AI model in a lab.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to deploy it in the real world and see how it performs.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber really meets the road.
So what are some of the key things our listeners should be thinking about as they move from experimentation to implementation?
Right.
How do you actually get an AI project to go live successfully?
The excerpt talks about the importance of having a clear plane for how
Okay.
you're going to integrate the AI system into your existing processes.
Hmm.
This means thinking about things like data flow,
Mm-hmm.
user interfaces training for your team.
Right.
You want to make sure the AI system fits seamlessly into the way you already work, and that it
Okay.
doesn't create a whole new set of silos or complexities.
It's about making AI work for you.
Exactly.
No, it's not the other way
Right.
around.
And then there's the critical piece of monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah.
Once your AI system is live, you need to track its performance and make sure it's delivering the results you expect. Yeah.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Definitely not. AI systems need to be constantly monitored and adjusted as needed.
Hmm.
The excerpt actually uses the term model drift to describe how AI models can become less accurate over time
Right.
as the data they were trained on becomes outdated. Think of it
Okay.
like a car. You
Yeah.
need to regularly service it and make adjustments to keep it running smoothly.
So the AI needs regular tune-ups, just like any other complex system.
Precisely, and that's where the concept of MLOps comes in. It's essentially DevOps for machine learning, and it's
Okay.
all about creating a robust process for managing, deploying, and maintaining AI models throughout their life cycle.
It's like having a pit crew for your AI, making sure it's always performing at its
That's a
best.
great analogy. The excerpt ends on a really empowering note,
Okay.
emphasizing that you now have a solid framework for thinking about AI strategically.
Hmm.
You've got the knowledge now, go out and apply it.
This deep dive has been like a crash course in AI strategy.
It has.
Covered so much
It
ground.
has.
From the basics of AI to the challenges of data management to the importance of responsible AI. If you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, that's totally understandable. But remember, the key message here is to start small, focus on the problems that matter most to your business, and build from there.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
And you don't have to figure it all out overnight. Yeah.
The most important thing is to get started.
And with that, we come to the end of our deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of AI strategy.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring. Until next time, keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI.